Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Elizabeth Wanzi, and today we are going to get into whether you should invest in mentorship or invest in new equipment. We're going to be talking about what you should do with the amount of money you have right now to best grow your photography business as quickly as possible to both make you as much money as possible, but then also to both create the life and freedom you desire. Right now, the first thing that I want you to do before you do anything else is I want you to click the link below and go watch my masterclass, 4 Steps to Booked Out with Premium Clients. Whether you decide mentorship or equipment at the end of this video, this free masterclass is really going to help you with how to position your business, how to position your mindset, how to position your marketing so that you don't only just get booked out, but you get booked out with premium clients, which I always recommend for people in photography business because we don't want to be shooting 40 weddings a year. So you can visit that either the link below, or you can head to elizabethwanzi.co/masterclass, and it's going to be my entire framework that took me from totally free weddings to $9,000 weddings while I was working part-time at home with little babies, 12 hours or less a week. Okay, so let's get into it, because right now you are in this place where you have an amount of money that you want to allocate within your business, and you're probably looking at that new fancy lens, or you're probably looking at that new camera that you need in order to get better photos, right? And I want to talk to you about why I always say mentorship over equipment. This is something I applied within my own business, and I saw tremendous results. And I want that for you as well. So there's always, when I'm doing things, there's always a strategy and there's always choices we need to make within our business. And I would urge you when you're making those choices in your business to think long term and to also listen to people who've gone before you, right? We'll talk a little bit about what mistakes I did make in the equipment area and talk about what that mentorship could look like for you. Okay, so starting with buying expensive equipment is the wrong idea. And I know that you're hearing from all these other wedding photographers, these fancy lenses that they use, and you're hearing about in the photography community, their film cameras and their 85s and their 50s and their 35s and all of these things and how it's creating these beautiful images. But here's the thing. You can take amazing photos with any camera if you know how to use the camera properly. So very, very first thing is, regardless of the camera you have, you can create beautiful images from it if you know how to use it properly. So my question to you is, are you using your camera properly? Do you know how to use every aspect of your camera? Do you know how to work with light? Do you know how to pick beautiful locations? Have you done all these things before you decide to just invest in something else that is considerably more expensive? We're talking thousands of dollars taken out of your bank account. Okay, I want you to ask yourself those questions before you decide to make that new purchase. Now, here's what I started with. When I did my first handful of weddings, I would say, I started with a T3i, which is nowhere near a professional camera, but that is what I had. And I built my photography business off of my T3i, which I think was like a $300 camera at the time. And I had a 50 millimeter 1.8 lens. I didn't even have the 1.4. And with all of that, I was able to create this amazing business and, luxury business off of just those things. I definitely made the mistake, however, of buying all of the lenses and things that I thought I needed once I started to gain a little bit of traction. Once I started to make money in those handful of weddings, the first thing I did was I did buy classes, but they were like the cheaper classes. Those helped me. And then once I had enough money, I had enough cash, I had thousands. The first thing I did with that is I went and bought the 70 to 200 lens, the Canon 70 to 200. And I believe that lens is going to hit you about $2,000. And it was just a huge mistake. My money could have been spent so much better if I would have invested all of that money in a mentor who could have showed me to stop spending money on lenses and equipment that didn't really matter. I could have saved that money and I could have built the back end of my business and organized it a lot better in the beginning. So yeah, we'll get more into it, but just there's so many other things that you can do for your business that are going to propel it to a better level than buying a new lens or buying new equipment. Okay, so if you have to choose, if you're just like dead set on what you should buy, here's what I recommend. I recommend that you get a lens over a camera, because a lens is where the magic is, okay? If you have a camera that just works just fine and works properly and is able to have good lens attachments. I'm a Canon shooter. I don't know what the Nikon equivalent would be, and I don't shoot film, so I don't know those lenses. But for Canon, I would recommend you go on Amazon and you get the 50mm 1.4. That's gonna run you a couple $100, I believe, and you're not spending $1,000 out of pocket for a lens you don't need, and then you can build off of that, okay? If you want another lens, if you want to get into the $1,000 lenses later on, or if you're even considering buying that right now, at the very least, I urge that you rent the lens first. A lot of people don't know that you can actually rent lenses, and you can rent one for a wedding rather than buying the entire $3,000 lens. Okay, and then work your way up to it, because you can capture, right now I can capture a beautiful wedding with just a 50mm 1.4 and my we have a T6i now, and I can do it with that. I can do it with my Mark, I can do it with a 1.4, I can do it with all the things. So make sure that you're not just focusing on the equipment, you're focusing on what it actually takes to be a better photographer with the equipment you have, and that you're not putting all the emphasis on running a profitable photography business on how pretty your photos are, okay? The profitability of your business is not going to lie in the equipment you have, all right? Now, instead, what I want you to do with that money, okay, so you have, maybe $1,000. What I want you to do is I want you to set some money aside, and I want you to get mentorship. And the mentorship is what's going to teach you to be a better photographer. The mentorship is going to teach you your lighting. The mentorship is going to teach you how to market properly to get more clients, so that maybe later on down the road, after you've booked, buku weddings and you have a bunch of money saved and stacked in your account, then you give yourself the gift of a really, 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 high-end lens that's thousands and thousands of dollars. A mentor is going to teach you how to have a killer client experience, so that when you're delivering the beautiful photos on your camera that you have right now with your lens that you have right now or your 1.4, those clients are going to be so wowed, not just by your beautiful photos on your current equipment, but also by the experience that you're providing to them, because you've really thought out your client experience with your mentor. These are things that you're not going to typically learn how to do unless somebody who's done it before teaches you the pathway to do that, okay? And lastly, a mentor is going to teach you how to position yourself right now for your photography business to continually grow into charging higher prices, which is so important, because when you start out, you're likely charging, pennies, basically. You're not making any money from what you're charging to shoot these weddings. And you really want to get to a point where you're doing a minimum amount of weddings. You're giving a luxury experience. You're giving tons of impact. You're giving impact to the people that you're working with, and you really have time to work with the clients you have and hone in your skills with the clients you have. And you can't do that when you're doing 10 bajillion weddings. All right. Lastly, I just want to say that having the entire framework from taking a beginner photography business all the way to where you want it to be, whether that's luxury or not. Having someone who's like, okay, here is the roadmap. Here is literally what you need to do. Okay, this is, you just need to follow the steps and we can check in along the way. That is really the most important thing you can do for yourself. Because again, you can ask your mentor about lighting, you can ask your mentor about photography and editing and all of that stuff, but you can also do that stuff on the side for free. You can go out and you can ask your parents or your boyfriend or your husband or your kids to go out and you can practice lighting that way, and you should, by the way. So that's my little sort of rant on mentorship. Now, many photography businesses fail because they only focus on the art of the photography and getting better equipment. Pretty photos will not book you jobs if nobody knows that those photos exist, okay? Pretty photos will not book you jobs if nobody knows the photos even exist. So what I see so often in like photography forums and photography Facebook groups and communities is there's this huge emphasis on what equipment should I buy? What lens should I buy? The tone of my pictures, the editing. And it's like, those are the things that really excite us. And I get it because I'm a photographer and like I also obsessed over those things. But that is such a small portion of what truly creates a profitable photography business. Beautiful photos and the editing and all of that is like a small, tiny fraction of what you need to create a thriving, profitable, consistent photography business. And the only way that you're going to learn how to do that is either by trial and error, which you could totally do, trying and failing over and over and over again. But I'm a fan of not trying and failing as much as humanly possible. And so I'd rather spend the money and get somebody to just show me how to do it. Just tell me what to do, tell me what works, and I'll do it, and then make my own tweaks along the way. Now, as you start to grow, or maybe you have a little bit more, the best investments you can make into mentorship or education are the ones that aren't going to be like the tiny classes. You know, the tiny classes are really good for one sort of tactic. So that's a class that's going to be a couple $100, right? And that's going to show you one or two tactics. So it's going to teach you about Instagram, or it's going to teach you about lighting, or it's going to teach you about client experience. But if you have the funds to do so, if you have enough to invest in your business and get something that is an all-around sort of education, an all-around mentorship, that's always going to be the one that I recommend, because then you're not stuck buying a bunch of things and trying to piece them together, which often everybody has different methodologies. So if you're buying Instagram from one teacher, and then you're buying client experience from another teacher, and then you're buying consultation calls from another teacher and trying to piece that together, that's also what I find doesn't work, because there's a disconnect between the teaching styles and everything you need in between to really have the entire method. Okay. So what I would suggest is, instead of going and buying that super expensive lens, take that money and buy a really good course. And it's not going to cost you a couple $100, because a really good course or a really good mentor is going to be, you know, close to $1,000 or upwards of that. But it's totally worth it. Okay. So I'm curious, after listening, which one are you more leaning towards and why? Do you still feel like you want to get the equipment, or do you see sort of the value of really waiting, honing in on your photography skills, and learning the business side of photography? Okay, let me know in the comments below, because I'd love to chat that out with you. And if you're feeling empowered and ready to start getting some mentoring, watch that masterclass that I mentioned. It's totally free. It's 60 minutes. And it's something that I want all of my students to have, because there's so much inside there. It's a 4-step framework, and it's going to walk you through exactly what to do in order to create not just a booked out business, but a luxury photography business. Again, that's at elizabethwanzi.co/masterclass, or go ahead and click the link in the description box. All right, guys, thank you so much. I will see you in the next video.